We finally got the iPhone 15 Pro Max in, and the first test up, as always, is the drop test, where it's going head-to-head against the Galaxy S23 Ultra. Now, the iPhone has two things going for it this year. The headline feature, of course, is Apple went with a titanium frame instead of stainless steel, which is supposed to be even stronger than before, especially compared to the Galaxy's aluminum. But more importantly, titanium allows the iPhone to be significantly lighter, which in the context of a drop test, everything else being equal, less weight translates into less force upon impact. On top of that, the iPhone is still using Apple's specialized ceramic shield on the front compared to the Galaxy's Gorilla Glass Victus 2, and it also has a flat screen on the front compared to the Galaxy's curved display. But with the new phone comes new concerns, and the iPhone has a couple. The edges of this new phone are a little bit rounded, whereas before they were completely flat, so I kind of feel like it doesn't sit as flush with the frame as it did before, and these bezels on the front are thinner than ever, which could actually be a negative factor for it in terms of a drop test. But whether or not it is though, well, there's only one way to find out. Round number 1, backdrop. 3, 2, 1. After that backdrop, oh man, the iPhone's rear glass shatters. You can see the initial point of contact here with the cracks spiderwebbing all the way up and across the iPhone. Whereas on the Galaxy, while it also cracked, the damage is mostly contained to the bottom left and the top right corners. Both phones have their camera lenses pretty scuffed up, although a lot of that is just concrete debris with it wiping right off. But either way, the result here is clear, with an easy win for the Galaxy in round number 1. Round number 2, corner drop. 3, 2, Okay, before we take a deeper look at the results, let's play back that iPhone footage real quick, because it did something I don't think I've ever seen before, with the iPhone's titanium actually creating a little spark as it made contact. But the good news is, despite the theatrics, the titanium itself doesn't look all that bad. In fact, after wiping it off, it looks better than the Galaxy's aluminum, which kinda dug into the concrete. But the thing is, with the iPhone, the rear glass is starting to fall apart though, with a big old chunk of glass missing right there at the point of impact. So this one could go either way. Both phones still are fully functional, but each has its pros and cons in terms of how it did. So I'm just gonna call it a tie in round number 2. Round number 3, face drop. 3, 2, 1. Wow, so chunks of glass flying everywhere after that face drop, where unfortunately both phones shatter. I was really hoping that the iPhone would go back to the days of the iPhone 12 where it was actually able to survive these drops, but it doesn't look like that's the case here. I don't know if it's due to the iPhone having slightly rounded edges this time, or if it's due to the thinner bezels, but the iPhone didn't do well at all, with what looks like 2 major points of damage here, with spiderwebbing then going all over the place. The Galaxy, on the other hand, looks even worse, with a bunch of deep cracks going along its edges, which presumably is due to it having a curved display. But the good news is both phones still remain fully functional, even that in-screen fingerprint scanner on the Galaxy and Face ID on the iPhone. So this is a really close one, but a slight edge for the iPhone in round number 3, bonus round. And 3, 2, 1. Jeez, okay, so the iPhone's rear glass seems to do this every year, where as soon as it suffers any kind of damage, it just begins falling apart on subsequent drops. Whereas on the Galaxy, it looks mostly the same as it did in the last round. After doing our 15-point inspection, both phones still remain fully functional. The fingerprint scanner on the Galaxy still works despite having a small crack through it, and Face ID and even that 5x tetraprism lens on the iPhone still seem perfectly fine. So again, a really close one, but because it held up a little bit better round over round, it's a slight edge for the Galaxy in round number 4. Okay, with all 4 rounds in the books, let's take a look at the scorecard. In the first round, even though both phones cracked, the Galaxy did significantly better than the iPhone. In the second, the two phones each suffered a similar amount of damage. In the third, the iPhone's flat display seemed to give it a slight edge. And in the fourth round, the Galaxy held up just a little bit better than the iPhone did, giving the slight advantage to the Galaxy in this drop test.